topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Good evening. Welcome to Triversity Talk. I am Wendy Stewart, and here we have
Simone Krause. How are we doing?
Good. How are you doing tonight?
Happy Pride Month.
Well, I was going to say Happy Pride Month to you too. And it certainly, I tell you, since this pandemic, it really took off like with a whirlwind.
Oh, it has. You know, I mean, and it seems like we're finally starting to break open.
Yeah.
Lots of Pride events coming up. Sussex County Pride is this Sunday, June 12th at Newton Square. Morris County Pride.
Really exciting. What's going to happen at Sussex County Pride this Sunday? What can people expect if they go there?
Well, there'll be a drag show and performers and a lot of different places. Triversity will be there and some other churches. And there'll be a lot of information.
A lot of fun, which is great.
And a lot of welcoming people.
Right. And I think I saw somebody advertising, I think it was for Sussex County Pride, like a short, like life coaching session. Did I read that correctly? I love that. It's like, that's so
they have a couple of really interesting things. Something about you make a donation, put your name in, and then they'll pick it out to find out who you should be matched up with. So,
oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I know my wife's thinking of doing it. Like, okay.
Wow, huh? Come to Sussex County Pride and find a new partner. Not that the old one was bad, but you know what? We can pair you up with someone at least for Pride Month. That's actually what a fun idea. Who are some of the drag artists this Sunday?
Oh, I know. It's a Cookie Dough, Kay Gorgeous, Bell Pepper, to name a few.
Great. They're all wonderful. So for anybody that's listening and you're in the New York, New Jersey, or Pennsylvania area, Sussex County Pride is happening. And it can be as far away as an hour or as close as 20 minutes if you're in any of those areas. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So make sure you try and attend. It's this Sunday. So Simone, our guest tonight, I'm really excited because she just represents everything to me, an incredible success story. I met her when she was a high school activist, and now she just got her Bachelor of Science in Social Work. All right. A lot of you who are listening know Christina Marie Gonzalez. She identifies transgender and queer. And I say she is really paying it forward. She is using her whole degree now and her experience to help LGBTQ plus youth, as well as civil rights and mental health issues. So, I mean, this is someone from the get-go that I'm not surprised because she's a rock star. Let's welcome Christina Marie Gonzalez.
Hi, Wendy, and hi, Simone. Thank you for that lovely introduction. It's very nice to be on the show.
It's great, really great having you. And I meant what I said, just, watching you from the beginning. For those of you who don't know, this show is called Triversity Talk because it's based on our organization, Triversity Center for Pride, based out of Milford, Pennsylvania. We are nationwide now, but we started with our small organization to address the needs of our community. And initially when we started, and Christina, you'll back me up on this, we had a lot of kids. And you were one of our kids.
Yeah. I was a P3 kid.
I was back in the very, very old days when Patty Tomaszewski was running it,
Right.
and Cindy Stein and
Yep.
Carrie and Chris Jacqueline. Were all very. It was very formative years of my teenage years, and I wouldn't be where I am without P3 and without Triversity.
Well, first of all, love that you're saying that. Oh, you have to tell people what P3 stands for people that don't know.
P3 was a youth program, and it stood for People Promoting Pride, and it was just a really nice space for people around teenage young adult years to just gather and socialize. And it was very important because it's hard to be openly LGBTQ and to be a teenager or a young adult. There's often not spaces for that, so it was a very, very good program.
Well, first of all, I love that you're calling this out because, yeah, it's very hard on teens and in more so in rural areas, right, than in the cities. And there's just not a lot of choices for people in rural areas, which is why our organization ended up working so great for, my God, all the kids that I know of just went on. A lot of them went on like for social work or psychology or things like that. Do you think that being part of a youth group, an LGBTQ youth group, really influenced your career choice?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Just being a part of that youth program and coming together, it definitely influenced that. It made me have a desire to going with the message of tonight's program, paying it forward. I had a lot of people that influenced me in my teenage years to pay it forward and to help out the community. So yes, absolutely.
And it really is about those mentors, whether they're in your families or a teacher or just somebody that gets behind you and totally supports you. So I want to go back a little bit because the thing that I knew about you was you fought for the issue in high school to have a gender neutral bathroom.
Yes, I did actually, and that was something that was succeeded. That was a bit of a stepping stone. The main issue though was in when I was in high school. There were a small group of us transgender teens, and we were not allowed to use the restroom of the gender that we identified as,
Right.
and that I just saw as a huge problem. I'm the kind of person where if I see a problem, I speak up against it. And so many people out there, they can't because they are not they don't have the privilege or the ability to speak up. And I said I have that strength in me, and I really just want to do what's right. So what I ended up doing was I exhausted all the options that I had, and when it was finally enough, I said, I'm I'm going higher. And I went to the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights, and I filed a complaint. And it was around, I want to say, 2 years after filing the complaint, I did receive notice that I won. And I think that it did change things in Delaware Valley's culture.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm listening to what you did, and I agree with you. It's something you said it. You're the kind of person that has to do something about it. What makes you that kind of person? A lot of people will just keep their mouth shut for many reasons. The fear of being judged, the fear of being singled out, and certainly the possibility of being attacked. But you didn't think of any of those things. What do you think causes this incredible strength that you have?
I'm uplifted by many people that came before me. I think of all of the lovely, going back to what we were saying before, I think of all the lovely mentors of you, Wendy, Simone, many other people in Triversity that have made a difference, and it's uplifting. It gives me the strength to go forward.
We love, of course, hearing that. We've been told sometimes that, and we know this not to be true, but we're told sometimes that, oh, everything's fine. We don't need to have any of these groups anymore, or these times are different and people are so much more accepting. And from your perspective, okay, because now you've graduated from college, what do you think compared to when you were in high school?
I think things have gotten a lot better, and I don't want to discount the incredible work that has been done. But we still do have a very long way to go. I was just recently reading some statistics from a couple years ago. I think they were the latest statistics from 2020 from the Trevor Project, and it did say that half of LGBTQ youth have considered attempting suicide. And I think that is absolutely unacceptable, that we are living in this day and age, and that is a reality. And I just see that as more of a reason that we need to have youth programs such as the one that I attended, and organizations such as Triversity.
Right. And we have, of course, the statistics expert right here, Simone Krause. Jump on in, because I tell you, Christine, if you ever want to know exactly who has their hand on the pulse of everything, it's Simone. Go for it.
Well, yeah, I mean, the 41%, actually 40.6% for trans youth is, it's there, and people can't really even fathom that number. I mean, they just actually blow it off but it's a number that's there, and the amount of kids trans youth that think about this, and especially now with all the anti-trans legislation throughout the country, I mean, they are being targeted out of the whole LGBT youth. The trans and the queer kids are just being targeted, and it's just relentless. And I often don't see the other letters jumping up and standing up for us. I mean, I feel sometimes like we're swimming by ourselves.
Yeah.
And I like to know. I like to set an example so that kids always know that there's trans adults out here, and we're not going away, and we're going to have your backs, and we're going to speak up, and we're going to be your voice. But we also need to make people realize the amount of this legislation, what it's doing to kids. I mean, Christina, she's an anomaly, the ways that she decided to grab this thing and run with it. There's very few people like, Christina, Rebecca Brusoff. There's very few that I can name. I mean, I heard about Christina when I first transitioned. She was a legacy then. She was a legend to me then.
You're so young to be a legend, but yeah,
she was. So, right. She's doing great stuff.
And by being who you are, and I said paying it forward, but it's more than that. I've been reading and knowing these statistics and what's happening in other states. And I feel very fortunate that we're in the Northeast, but think about some of the other states where they're passing these barbaric legislations, and I haven't heard of any uprising. Like, Simone, you get a lot of information. Have you heard of any pushback, any uprising in certainly some of the southern states?
There's not so much pushback or stuff, but I mean, there's getting to be dangerous stuff in Florida. In fact, now they want to actually allow Medicaid to deny covering any transgender health care. So not only would it affect trans youth, trans adults, and then once Medicare decides not to cover it, insurance companies are going to fall in line. So basically, this legislation that starts out going after the trans youth just blows up and goes up the ladder to go after every transgender person.
Right. I'm wondering if their legislation and proposals that are being put forth. But my question is, wouldn't it be a state by state thing? Like, I can't imagine, this being denied in New York State.
Who wants to answer?
No, I do want the answer. We're all about being honest and transparent. And I know you know this stuff.
So it would be a state by state thing. Generally, in the United States, Medicaid programs are a state by state program that was part of the Clinton welfare reform. It used to be run federally, but now, unfortunately, and I can speak to this, I currently reside in Florida. There is what Simone is saying. There is, what she said, the push for denying Medicaid coverage for gender affirming care. And, you spoke to some other legislation as well in the state. You have the Parental Rights and Education bill, which really is more of the Don't Say Gay or Trans bill.
Right. But with that bill, isn't it also they can hold parents accountable for getting their kids the hormone blockers?
So are you speaking more towards the Medicaid or towards the parental rights and education?
Just the parental rights and education factor.
So the parental rights and education bill, basically the outline of it is from grades K through 3. Any discussion of sexual orientation or gender identity is considered to be inappropriate and not allowed. And then from grades 4 through 12, it is not allowed if it is considered developmentally inappropriate, which is a very overly broad statement. Right. That's left up to the discretion of principals, and they can consider any discussion to be developmentally inappropriate. And speaking from someone that has a background in social sciences, there is nothing developmentally inappropriate about discussing sexual orientation. Totally. Right. And there's a narrative that they are teaching these graphic discussions, and that is just simply not the case. What is the case is they are just saying some girls feel as though they're a boy inside, or some boys feel as though they're a girl inside, or some kids have 2 moms or 2 dads, and they don't like that, and they want to push a different narrative to get it to sound more reasonable, when really it is unreasonable and it is discriminatory.
Right. Completely unreasonable. So I did not realize that you had relocated to Florida. So this is a whole other discussion. You are in the belly of the beast there.
Unfortunately, yes. The political atmosphere in Florida, it is very much different from Pennsylvania. It has a different a different feel to it when it comes to the attacks against the LGBTQ community.
When you say different feel, like in what way? That there's, because I, honest to God, and Simone will back me on this, Pennsylvania in the last couple of years, and I'm sorry to say, but Pike County has made my hair stand on end any number of times. So I'm trying to wrap my head around what exactly is. I read, of course, what's going on in Florida, but from your perspective, do you feel it's not safe for LGBTQ people there?
So I do reside in Palm Beach County, which is a very progressive area when it comes to LGBTQ issues. And it is, I would consider it to be very safe. I don't feel at all unsafe walking on the streets or being out in public. But just in terms of having a different feel, in Pennsylvania, we have Governor Tom Wolf, and he has been a very outspoken advocate for the LGBTQ community.
Right.
But when you have a governor such as Governor Ron DeSantis, who has been openly attacking the LGBTQ community with these harmful policies and laws, it feels slightly unwelcoming in terms of the political atmosphere.
Wow. That's it's amazing, because we've had a number of people from the Pike County area, more than a few, relocate to sunny Florida. And the political situation alone, I'm curious, do you see like billboards and things like that? What are they doing in terms of media that you might see when you're driving around?
I haven't specifically seen any media, but I do want to say, just to speak to the progressiveness of the area. I was just recently this past Sunday in West Palm Beach, and I was at a Pride event, and it was in full swing there.
Right.
It was lovely. It was you would never think, but it was. Yeah, it's just been it hasn't been so bad in this area, but just to have those policies put forth from the state, it does feel unwelcoming as an LGBTQ person in the state.
Right. Although, to your point, I know both Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and I have loads of friends in those areas. You know, everyone is celebrating Pride in full swing. So, but to address what you said, there are a lot of other areas where it really has to be scary for kids. And I'm thinking back to when, you know, when you were in Delaware Valley High School, there were things wrong, but you probably didn't feel like scary. This thing with Ron DeSantis and what he wants to do and don't say gay, it's freedom, it's anti-freedom of speech,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it could make like kids that are impressionable, younger kids, right, think that they could be taken away from their parents. Yes, Simone.
15 states have gone after the trans youth in healthcare, and Texas is the one that's leading the way where they're investigating the parents that this would be child abuse.
Right.
If they confirm their child's gender.
And right. And I had heard about that. And if they investigated a child, I mean, if this really revs up, and this is what's scary to me, that they could take someone's child away from them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you have even parents that are up in New Jersey that have trans children.
Yes.
And then you have to have a whole documentation of a folder, because all it takes is one hateful neighbor to find out that some kid is transgender, and they can call, you know, social services, and they got to investigate. And, you know,
but Simone, you don't have
that they have to have two sets of binders, one so that they could show the police there, but in case they get confiscated, have another set locked in a bank vault someplace so that if they mysteriously disappear. I mean, this is just ridiculous, the way they're going after trans youth.
Right. And this is in New Jersey. You heard of this in New Jersey?
Well, New Jersey, Pennsylvania,
Pennsylvania, I've heard of it. And I thought New Jersey, and, you know, we've had people on the show from Jersey, but it's happening everywhere, you're saying.
All it takes is somebody to call, you know, social services, and they have to investigate.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. Christina, when you went to college, what did you find was the biggest difference about how people perceived LGBTQ plus youth?
I would say the biggest difference in going to college is just the atmosphere. You know, in college, you were exposed to people of all different viewpoints, and I just saw that as being the biggest difference. You have very openly LGBTQ people on college campuses, and a lot of that is due to a lot of kids don't feel safe coming out in high school, and a lot of people wait until college, and that's the age when a lot of people decide to come out. And, you know, it's much easier to organize when you are openly LGBTQ on college campuses. There's there was a lot of pushback at Delaware Valley High School against our Gay Straight Alliance program, but an organization such as that on a college campus, I mean, that was my internship. We had a Gender and Sexuality Center for women and LGBTQ students, and it was just an entire space dedicated for us to be safe, to feel welcome, to feel heard, and to socialize and to attend programs. And I would never expect to see that in a lot of high school campuses.
Okay. I wonder, so since you left Delaware Valley High School, I know you stay in touch with everyone. And by the way, the fabulous Cindy Stein is in all of our our comments, and she said, Chrissy is amazing. I just had to tell you that. But in Delaware Valley High School this year, if you've been following, we've had a number of incidents, and I live in New York City. I'm in Pennsylvania on the weekend. All right. So this is stuff I just read about, or that my friends that go to the school board meetings tell me about. But it is unbelievable to me. I actually feel since you left the school, it's gone backwards. In terms of the type of people that are now on the school board. How did school boards become so powerful?
They really have. It used to be 10 years ago, school boards were just this local unimportant office. I'm not saying unimportant, but they were perceived as being unimportant to many people. And now it's taken a different turn as these more controversial policies have been proposed. You have the issue of LGBTQ students. You had the issue of masks. I think the issue of masks and COVID restrictions definitely helped take that off.
Right.
And you see other issues like what is so-called critical race theory policies. And it's just, it has become so politicized. And it's really what it should all be about. It should all be about the kids and doing what's best for them.
Right. But to your point, it has become politicized. And I think that, that's where we are right now. Our country is very divided. I can tell you in Pennsylvania, and certainly in our area, it's divided. And, I always believe like people can iron out their differences. And this is like one time that I am perplexed because I don't know how to iron out crazy. That's what I wanted to say. How do you do that? Things that are like blatantly wrong, right? They're wrong. There are some things that are, the hate is wrong, or to not respect what somebody identifies with, or use words, and we've all heard these, not normal. Where the heck did that come from? Because we weren't on that path. How did like human beings in this country just regress to it's insane. And you know what? I'm on a tangent now. Christina, you have to know me. I go on tangents, and Simone is going to come right with me. We just had that horrible Buffalo shooting, Texas shooting, and people are still trying to defend automatic weapons. It's just wrong. Yes, Simone, what were you going to say?
We started going down. Okay, 2014, Obama, basically changed it for Medicare that they had to cover gender affirming care.
Right.
Which was a big, giant leap for us.
It was a giant leap, and thank you for bringing that up.
Right. And then you had the North Carolina, HB2, they jumped on with the bathroom bill. That was the first one. And then eventually, it got overturned down the road, but there was a lot of pushback, and a lot of other states started jumping on that. And it still wasn't bad until Trump got it. And then he just targeted. I mean, if you really look up the word transgender and Trump, you can see how many times he has eliminated that off of the government rolls. He wanted to basically erase us. Just the transgender people. Right. And once he got booted out, then the states started going after us.
Right. People are using that as the platform right now.
People get annoyed. 99.4% of the people in this country are cisgender and relatively comfortable in the gender they identify. 0.6% are us.
Right. And so it's like, why should I care? It's not me. It's not my family. But it's like unbelievable that people cannot recognize somebody else's right, It's right.
We're easily divided. You can have old white Democrats, some old guy going, I don't want that guy going in the bathroom with my granddaughter. It's a wedge point. They can easily divide using this. And unfortunately, I'm going to harp again. There's not a whole lot of the mafia alphabet that stands right by us and says, oh, well, hold on, that's wrong. You shouldn't be talking like that. We're literally out there on our own trying to swim.
So with this being Pride Month, right? How do we get? We've had guests on the show that said they want the T recognized, and Mariah Lopez is like, I want Triversity to get rid of LGBTQ Center and put the TLGB whatever, but the T will come first. How do we at least, okay, if the letters aren't going to get jumbled around, how do we get all of us to work together?
It's not going to happen. Since the 1990s, they did not want to include the transgender community in the bill to get the equal rights. And even the politician out of Massachusetts, Barney Frank, did not want us on there. Right. You know, and they never really wanted to put us on there. They're always like, oh, wait, we'll get you yours. And then when everyone else got theirs, they're like, okay, oh, you're on your own. And I know I'm pissing people off, but I'm living it.
Nothing popped up in the comments yet. I don't know. Maybe we'll get nasty letters after the show.
But I do want to say one thing about Cindy Stein. Not only did she help Christina, she helped me.
Tons.
She taught me how to be the advocate I am. If it wasn't for her, I would not be doing what I'm doing right now.
Thank you.
Cindy Stein, she is an inspiration to us all.
Yeah.
I cannot speak highly enough of Cindy.
Exactly.
And there have been guests I've had on this show connected to the Zero Project in different parts of the country, and they all say the same thing. I spoke to her the other night. I said, you need to go back and look at some of the guests that you put on this show. I said, because they spend a portion of their time on here singing you praises, and honest to God, it's nationwide. And how wonderful, really, that one human being, and that's what we're talking about, can really affect so many people in that way. And I guess with you, Christina, that is the path that you're going down. Mm-hmm. Are you now you're working as a social worker now? Yes.
Yes, I am. Yes.
And are you working with youth, or tell me what you're doing right now?
So I'm actually working in the field of crisis intervention right now. I'm working as a crisis counselor.
Wow. Geez, so what does that with crisis counselor? Because not everybody really quite understands the definition of that. So I'm going to let you share that.
So to share a little bit about it, individuals that are in crisis, whether they're experiencing a problem with food insecurity, a housing crisis, suicidal thoughts, even to relate it to a lot of the work that I've done, a lot of people, speaking to the statistics that I was talking about before, with the high rates of suicidal ideation, a lot of LGBTQ youth rely on crisis intervention services to help stabilize themselves and to gain support and resources in the community. So that's just a little bit about what I've been doing. I'm still currently in training right now.
Right, but what a great thing to be in training for. Yeah, Simone.
I mean,
I can always tell when Simone wants to talk. The pencil comes up on his screen.
No, the crisis intervention is stuff that Chrissy's talking about, especially with the trans youth that will be denied gender affirming, the blockers.
That's what I was thinking, right?
I mean, I don't know how people can get upset at something that should really be between the child, the parent,
Agreed.
the therapist, the endocrinologist, and the primary care doctor. That should be exactly the only people involved.
Right.
But the blockers have been something that they've used not just for the transgender community since 1994. All it's really doing is allowing the child the time to make the decision and stop the secondary characteristics.
Absolutely.
That which, if you really want to be as cruel as you can be to an individual, force them to go through a puberty that they don't identify and have to live with those secondary characteristics their entire life.
Absolutely agree.
You can do to a human being.
Yep. Yeah, because when that person looks in the mirror, they're going to hate what they see in that mirror. Absolutely right. And that should not be taken away from any child. I'm so on board with that, But with what's happening now in these other states, and this is something I'm not sure of. Will parents be able to take their children to another state if they wanted to get the puberty blockers? How is that going to work?
Well, right now you've got 2 states. Connecticut is one of them that is making themselves a sanctuary state so that
Great.
somebody can come there and get the hormones and whatnot and the blockers. And if they had to travel back and forth, and that they couldn't be prosecuted or taken out of the state. And they're also going to open that up probably to if Roe versus Wade gets overturned also.
Oh yeah, that's a whole.
We need more sanctuary states like that.
Right. We need more sanctuary states. So, Christina, when you're working as a crisis counselor, do you ever have days where it kind of gets to you?
So I am still mostly in training, but I've been getting a little bit of a taste for what it's like, and it is such heavy content. But
it's heavy content.
Yeah. It is heavy content, but ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm just glad that I could be helping to make a difference in the community, because
Right.
I have been in those situations. I have been in situations where it didn't feel worth it anymore. And I have reached out to similar services before. I've reached out to friends, I've reached out to doctors, I've reached out to therapists, and I have made it one of my goals in life to be that person, to be there for someone.
Yes.
Because I want every LGBTQ person and child to know that they matter and that they are worth it and that they can keep on going. That is my goal, to let them know that.
Right. That's absolutely incredible. You have such a big heart. There are a lot of people that go through stuff and they use the resources and they recover from the stuff that they go through. And then, they become 25, 30 years old and they are who and what they are. They're fine people, but they don't find the need to give back at all. Maybe they don't feel it takes a certain amount of power to know that you can change things, to know that you can be the one. And certainly, like the three of us here, well, I'd see the world through rose-colored glasses. So I always have hope, no matter how bad things are. And I always believe that things can be changed. It was interesting when I asked you a question earlier. You said by the time you got to college, it was a very different experience for you. What I'm learning now, both in New York City, New Jersey, and in Pennsylvania, and from doing these kinds of things, I'm meeting parents of very, very, very young children that are identifying. Okay, this is what people have to realize. It's not a phase. I mean, maybe one kid out of 30, but it's not a phase. And the parents that I'm meeting are so supportive of that child, but they're also very scared for obvious reasons. It's the what ifs. It's the bathroom thing. Okay. And it's all the what ifs, the play dates and what if the other kids are not as accepting. Would you ever be working, do you think, with very young children eventually?
I don't see myself working per se with very young children, but if the opportunity ever presented itself, I would be open to it. So where I currently work right now, it's mostly chat based. So we do get young teenagers and older children that do text in to receive help. So that is something that I will be doing in the future.
That you see yourself doing. Now, have you stayed in touch with the people that you were friendly with from Gay Straight Alliance at Delaware Valley High School?
I have stayed in touch with a few people, no one particularly close to, but I do catch up from time to time with some people. One person in particular, she's probably one of my best friends. If she's watching, hi. But she is. We've both been there for each other, and we've both had the experience of being together at TV and going through similar similar situations, and she also identifies as transgender.
Right. Right. And here in New York City, I have so many friends that identify as it's funny in Pennsylvania, it's like transgender with italics on either side. In New York here, it's just I have so many transgender friends, and it's just a lot of the issues that I feel we've had to deal with in Pennsylvania, especially in the over 50 group, as Simone and I like the over 50 group. It's tough. It's very, very tough for people. Whereas in New York City, it's just like everyone's just trying to live their life here.
Mm.
And it makes it a lot easier. Yes, Simone.
I think that one statistic you said, like it's a phase. Well, that's what the conventional thinking was, that it was like 60 to 80% of trans youth would, kind of let it drop away. But they had found out, they did a study and they followed 300 children that, identified at a very young age. And they followed them for over 5 years. And 97.5% of them still identify the same as they did when they were 4 or 5 years old. And they're going to continue following them. So this is not going to really just change at all.
Right.
Statistics are starting to come out.
Right. And Simone and I were talking, I think it was last week, about the genetic component, because how a person is, I hate to quote Lady Gaga, but born, a person's just born. They're born with whatever characteristics they have. And that's just it. And it's fact. And how do we, educate people to understand it's the science? It really is the science at the end of the day.
I really would like to say I have hope for a lot of people, but some people with science, I feel like science has just kind of gone out the door. But I just it's very frustrating. Whether it comes to transgender issues, climate change, these issues, I feel like science has just kind of gone out the window. But I do always. I despite what I said earlier, I do have hope that people can come to realize that this is something. And even without the science, I like to point to the fact that when it comes to people that are living their authentic selves, you go from someone that is often depressed, despondent, lonely, living a lie, basically, and then you go from that to a person that is living authentically and is exponentially more happy. And I excuse my language, screw science, but that is the real proof.
Yeah.
Right. I totally agree. Yeah, we're right there with you when it comes to that. But it's a matter of, and I talk about this with people all the time, it's the whole mindset thing. How do you change your mindset? I'm like a big believer in education. If we in our schools, right, and believe me, I don't see this happening so soon now with what's going on all over the country, but if at a young age we and I'm not talking about giving little kids sex education. I'm talking about teaching little kids differences, right? That people have their differences. And there is a way of presenting, like, a child born, say, with male characteristics, but continually, wants to be dressed up and identifies female. There's a lot of these kids there. I mean, I talk to people out there that are sophisticated and well-read and in our community, and they have their crusades for the LGBTQ plus community. And, I tell them this, I'm like, there's a lot of these little kids now. So you know what? We cannot stick our heads in the sand anymore. And I think the schools really have to start coming up with programs that emphasize at a very young age, differences are perfectly okay. Kindness, treating people with kindness, with respect, and with empathy. Yes, Simone, I can always tell you didn't raise your pencil. There it comes.
No, I was writing it down. Actually, if people just even Google transgender brains, February 5th, 2020, University of Georgia, and it'll talk about a whole article that talks about how basically you're born with a female brain or a male brain.
Right.
And genetically, I mean, I was born with a female brain. You know, I mean, look, you got families that are born with red hair, blue eyes, you know,
Exactly.
a couple, you know, skin a little darker, you know, whatnot. Why not a female brain?
Right.
So, yeah. So, I mean, the thing is, people can look that up, and they can look up the Cleveland Clinic, and it starts to talk about the transgender brains.
Well, we need more conversations about that. And speaking of conversations, Mary Weber Krause, thank you for tuning in and for all of your nice comments, which include Simone is speaking the truth. You see, she's not going to go to Sussex County Pride and trade you in now. That is not going to happen. And you know why? Because you speak the truth. You speak the truth. It's, you know what, Christina, which has become very interesting to me. I was used to coming from New York City. My trans friends were they never like transitioned. They just were. And it was all good. And then I came out to Pennsylvania and I met kids that, you know, identified as transgender and had so many things to deal with because there weren't huge amounts of support for that in the rural area. But the biggest surprise to even me was Simone's group, because anyone I knew in that age group had transitioned way back in their teens. You know, Simone, and you and I have discussed this, your group really is a group that largely needs support and needs to be addressed because, Christina, you're lucky you were, you know, growing up and getting to form your life. Simone's life was already formed, as so many of the people that, you know, that I met in Pennsylvania. And by formed, I mean, you know, a job hanging out with dudes, but having a female brain and having to keep all that inside you, or, you know, having 2 teenage kids and, you know, you're all of a sudden you want to live your authentic self, except you're 50 and you have all the trappings of what 50 years is, you know. It would be like asking me, my apartment, you know, been in here forever. I can't even wrap my head around another apartment, even though it might be better. But you know what I'm saying? Yes, the pencil's up.
Yeah, I can see the clock is ticking down, and we want to give her final farewell.
Right. So we have 3 minutes, and thank you, Simone, I could talk forever, as you know. Christina, you get your final 3 minutes in the sun to say whatever you like to our audience or whatever you want to share with everybody. So it's your platform.
Well, I just want to thank you both again for having me on the show. This was such an amazing opportunity. And again, to everyone out there, I just want to say there's so many different resources out there, and just education is the most important thing when it comes to this issue. I would recommend some incredible resources: the Trevor Project, Human Rights Campaign, Transgender Law Center. Shout out to all of these organizations that are doing incredible work. And most importantly, we are in an election cycle right now. So make sure you're registered to vote. And I will not tell you who to vote for, but vote for who you think will represent our community the best.
Thank you. Thank you for everything. I always take a parting shot. Cheese. Thank you. Wishing you luck going forward with your new job, your new state. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you, Simone.
Thank you.
Happy Pride.
Happy Pride.